What is good, Foundation Nation, and welcome to yet another disc review. Today we're going to be checking out the Discraft Pulse. Now this is a disc that is currently out of production, so you might be saying, why on earth are you reviewing it? Well, Ledgestone just brought it back, and I think a lot of people are very curious about this disc. I'm being one of them. I've never thrown it before. I looked up the flight numbers. It's alleging to be an 11403. So that makes it sound like almost like a faster Firebird type disc. I don't know how stable it's going to be. This run in particular was very, very flat. It also, one of the unique things about the Pulse, it's not as pronunciated in this run as I've seen in some of the ESP runs, but it has this like groove around the top. I don't want to call it a thumb track because it's not really where your thumb goes. It's like still on the rim. We'll try to get an up close shot of that, but it's going to be hard to see. It's on the rim, but yeah, this is like a Z Tour Series swirl one. So these might be even a little bit more stable than the ESP. I've never thrown it. We're out here at this field, perfectly flat, just you can throw as far and as long as you want. And we're gonna see what this thing's capable of. First off, feel-wise, I think some people get scared because of this groove. Like I said, you can't feel it at all. Even if I have my thumb way up above where I normally am, I still don't feel it here. It's not till right here is where I feel it, and I don't know of anyone that's throwing like that. On the forehand, I could see where some people might have their thumb there, but I feel like most people have their thumb almost over their pointer finger, or if you stack grip kind of like this, and either way, again, you don't feel it. So this must do something to the flight more so than for grip. I think that's something that turns some people off to it, but like I said, when I'm holding it, you don't notice that at all. So I'm very curious what this is gonna fly like. I'm gonna try to hit it hard and flat here. This is the first throw of the day, so this could be interesting to say the least. Okay, nowhere near as overstable as I expected. I did pull that a little bit, but I was able to still get a flat release, luckily, so we could see it fly. Pushed really far straight, and then hyzered out. I'm gonna go ahead and measure all these throws with the U-disc, so it might not be exactly accurate. Keep that in mind when I say distances, but that way we know about how far this thing's going and what it's flying like at those distances. That, according to U-disc, went about 380. That was throwing it flat. I'm gonna put it on a little bit of Anhyzer this time and see how much it wants to fight out. We're gonna try to hit it at about that same distance. Then we'll try it on Hyzer, a forehand, and then I'm gonna throw it with a little bit less spin and a little bit shorter distance to kind of resemble, if you're a newer player and you're throwing like maybe 250 or so, what that would look like. So I'll hit it with not much snap, maybe a fan grip so it has less spin, and at that distance so you can kind of see what it would fly like at that, if you're throwing about that distance anyway. So here we'll try it a little bit higher, a little bit of Anhyzer angle, and see how much it wants to fight it. By higher, I meant lower. So it wasn't a great example. It did start to come out. If I would have got that higher, we're gonna try it again. Would have got that higher, I think I would have got the full flight. But since it was low, it just kind of, it didn't turn and burn, it did pan out, but I want to get that higher and see what happens. I did not get a hold of that one, but at least we got to see it fight out. And it got a little skip out of it. So yeah, I'd imagine that probably went about the same distance as my flat one, so it wasn't really a max distance by any means, but it seems like the type of disc that will, if you hit it hard on Annie, slowly kind of pan and then come back versus really aggressively fighting out, because that was nose up and I didn't get a really good hit on it, so that's why that one fought out early, but you could see the tendency to want to pan. So now we're gonna try a little Hyzer and then a little forehand. We're gonna hit it on, not a lot of Hyzer. I'm gonna put it on like, maybe like that much. So that hopefully we can see. If I put it on too much, we won't really be able to tell anything because 90% of discs fly the same on this much Hyzer. If I put it on this much though, we'll be able to see if it wants to flip up at all, or if it's just gonna push, or if it's gonna dump. So this will tell us a lot about the stability of this disc. Yeah, so it was more of a pushing Hyzer. It didn't have very much flip. You could tell it was fighting it though. So it's not the type of disc that's gonna flip up and ride. I'm still trying to figure out if the little like rim thing does anything. Because right now it's just flying like a very stable, or like, yeah, stable, meaning straight distance driver. So in my head, the thing that little rim around the top might be doing is more so a long-term effect, to where as it beats in, it might help keep that stability, but I'm not exactly sure how that works. But on the Hyzer there, you can definitely tell it flew like a true stable disc. It just kind of pushed forward and moved slowly left, whereas if you go with too much of an overstable disc, it'll hit left early, or if it's a flippy disc, it'll flip up and then fade. So this one didn't really have any flip, but it fought the Hyzer so that it pushed straight and then slowly faded out. Let's check it on a forehand, and then we'll throw a little bit more of a beginner power shot. I'm gonna try to release this forehand flat, but just a heads up before I do so, 95 to 99% of my power forehands come out on a little bit of Annie, so expect a little bit of Annie. We're gonna try for it flat. This is also really sticky right now with this wet grass and how I dried it off, so probably gonna be a grip lock too. But we'll see what it does. That was actually flat. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what I expected it to fly like. Just really straight push, pretty solid finish at the end. I feel like, trying to think of like a good disc to compare this to. I don't have a ton of experience in this like 11 speed range, because I normally just throw 12 speeds or 9 speeds. But if I'm going in the Discraft lineup, I almost feel like this flies like a faster Vulture. I had a pretty stable Vulture, but I don't feel like this has the same overstability tendencies as like the Onyx. So I don't want to call it a faster Onyx. So I'm going like one step in stability down. It's like a faster Vulture, although I will say it's gonna be a little bit more overstable than your Vulture. But it's definitely gonna want to go farther. It feels great forehand, feels great backhand. We're gonna go ahead and just throw a little bit of a lower spin shot at about maybe like 250 or so, just so you can kind of see what it would fly like for a little bit of a slower arm speed. Faster arm speed, just expect it to flip up a little bit more. For me, so my Zeus's will push about 425, so if you're pushing 450 to 500, I would expect this disc to be able to flip up a little bit for you. But then again, if you're throwing that far, you're probably not watching a disc review. Hopefully I didn't offend anyone. We're gonna go with a beginner shot. So on this one, we're gonna go fan grip. And then I'm just gonna try to like throw like a little bit of a flex shot. Cause I think that's gonna play a little bit better, and I'm gonna take a lot off of it so that hopefully I'm throwing it like 250, maybe 300, but I'm not gonna try to throw it very hard. And the fan grip added with the taking off speed should replicate if you're a newer player and you're throwing to about that 250 to 300 mark, what this disc will look like if you're throwing it. That way you get a good visual of what you can expect. So let's see what we can do. I mean, it flew almost the exact same flight path as when I really hit it, which is a very good sign, because sometimes you'll get a disc that when you really mash on it, it will have that more of a flip up, but then if you're throwing softer, it wants to dump hard. Again, I don't know aerodynamics enough to know what that inner ring does to the actual flight path, but that could be something that we're seeing here, where when you do power off and have a little less spin, it's still wanting to push forward before dumping. That could be because of that, versus, you know, a normal disc might want to dump a little bit more when you take power off. So it might be something that as you progress, the disc might be able to hold that same flight pattern. I won't guarantee that, but it looks like that could be true. Hopefully you enjoyed this review. If you're interested in picking this disc up, we still have some of them left at our website, foundationdiscs.com. I'm not sure when they'll be ran again, so we thought about doing this review. We almost didn't, but I was way too curious to actually see what this thing did after it had been sitting in our shop for a little bit. I'm glad I got out here and threw it. I really like it. Again, maybe if you're smarter than me in the comments, you can let me know what that inner ring does. And if there's someone who has an explanation that makes sense and I think's legit, I'll pen it so that everyone else can see it as well. But yeah, it definitely is it was a much straighter disc than I expected. 11 speed I think is true. I would honestly, maybe for this run, go to like a 5 glide. I wouldn't put any turn on it, so I'd stick with the 0, but I'd probably put it more like a 2 fade. It did not seem to be like that, you know, low glide, hard fade. It definitely wanted to stay up in the air and push a little bit more before it faded. So 11.502 is what I'd rate this disc. And I definitely enjoyed throwing it. Not sure if it's gonna make my bag because I don't think it really fits a good slot, but if you haven't already, check the links in the description below to our social media, our website where you can pick this up, and all that good stuff. And other than that, we'll see you in the next one.